Let's do it. All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of the podcast that accompanies the series I have scattered throughout the internet, which is called No Other Life. You can find me with unique materials on various social media platforms, and I hope you'll seek me out. Try to have a conversation with me, because this is all about helping each other and encouraging us to all live the best lives that we can. I have one additional episode on this adjustment phase that follows the catalyst. And as a quick reminder, we've talked indefinitely about the fact that according to No Other Life, the new beginning is the point in time where you change your focus from something that was already going on into something new. And you may or may not have chosen to do it. You may have been thrust into it and so on. But that is the point in time where your focus changes. Now, it's preceded by something that is called a catalyst, a spark, what have you. And that is something that does the thrust upon you part. It might be something that you just heard or an article that you read that provoked new thoughts in your life. It could be external, directed at you, and you're just the recipient of good news, so to speak, bad news, so to speak. It doesn't quite matter. But in that period between the spark and the commitment to that new beginning, there is something that I've been calling an adjustment phase. And the adjustment phase, to be honest, can be immediate, as in what I'm calling an emergent situation, where the incident is immediately forcing you to change your way of life, your thoughts on life. That could be an instance of bodily harm or some other thing that is emergent and more positive. And honestly, I haven't thought of what that would be. But bodily harm changes your life, and there is nothing you can do to roll it back. Let's talk tonight about illness. I really think that it's important because we're all going to face something at some point. And this is a disease you might be diagnosed with, a symptom that you notice and you are afraid to discover more about. This is going to happen to all of us at some point. It's happening to many of the people you hold dear at this very moment. And it's probably happening to you now, or it will. I've been diagnosed with a chronic degenerative condition called Parkinson's disease. I've mentioned it many other places and seldom talk about it on this podcast, but how can I not on an episode like this? So in my terms, I knew that there were a number of symptoms that were strange, things that I didn't understand. And I was going to a lot of specialists. I wanted information. And you've probably been in some sort of a quagmire yourself where you're saying, this doesn't add up. And eventually I got to a specialist who was able to figure it out and gave me a diagnosis. And I am the type of person who was immediately accepting of that. I trust my medical team. Everything added up. The columns were all checked in such a way that I was able to immediately jump into, this is my new life. And I began to research. I began to do every single thing that I was told that would help to slow down my degeneration. And for the most part, I've had a successful life these 4 years, 5 years since that point. And for me, that has been what has worked. For other people, it's going to be a different journey, a different story that they will eventually be able to tell. And I can't speak to those people directly. I can't address the way that they approach their respective lives because they are their own people. And they're going through battles that I know nothing about. But what I will say is that you can live decades in the adjustment phase before realizing that it's time to commit to that new beginning, to commit to the change. You can live in that period indefinitely and never reach that recognition, that acceptance of what is actually going on in your life. And depending on the situation, if it is an illness, you may choose that you don't want to tell people. You may choose that you don't want to face it yourself. Therefore, you may choose not to do the things that are recommended to try to improve your quality of life. You may decide that includes taking the medicine that's recommended. There's a whole host of reasons, and I'm not judging any one of them because we all live different lives, and none of us can make a judgment on what someone else is going through because we are not there. We are not running that race, and there is no chance of ever understanding someone. This whole idea of walking a mile in someone's shoes is lovely, but it's nonsense. There's no such thing. So all that we can do is be compassionate and respecting that what people are choosing to do with their lives might be completely fly by the seat of their pants, terror, no idea what they're doing, but it could be also calculated. It could be chosen. It might be precisely what they want to be doing for the time and place. But as I mentioned last week, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're regularly coming back to a thought and saying, that particular catalyst happened, but I'm not ready to face the facts, not ready to make those changes, adjust my life, modify my home, do any of those above things, then you may end up in that period indefinitely. And I don't want that for you. Again, I'm not judging it in any way because you're going through something that I am not. However, the fact that you see that this is a difficult thing means that you recognize that something has happened. And as I mentioned with the case of bodily harm, if you look down and your body looks different than it used to look, then you have to accept that. You have to see that it's there, and you will make appropriate adjustments. But if there's something internal going on, there's something that's causing you to move differently or digest food differently, or your voice has changed, your brain has been determined to be changing, you can ignore that. You can look in the mirror. You can look down at your body in bed or while standing in a mirror and say, there's nothing going on here. Move on. People do that, and you can do that. But you could have a totally different life that's complementary to the one that you have been previously living, and in some ways may be better, because you probably will feel better having made those choices. And if you're in this adjustment phase, vortex, just spinning around, going from one feeling to another and not fully really recognizing what's going on, it's going to do a number on you. And any one of us can live in an antecedent period. I'm living in 1,000 antecedent periods right now and have no idea, because we don't know the future and we don't know what the next catalyst is going to be. We don't know the next emergent situation that's going to occur. Of course, this goes without saying, but it's important to this line of thought. Antecedent periods don't exist until a catalyst, because you don't have any idea what's coming. The new beginning is its own antecedent. Once you have recognized something and made a change, whether it's wildly different than the life you had previously lived, whether this has nothing to do exclusively with illness, you start school, you are now in a different world. You start a new job, you're in a different world. You are immediately made a parent one day, an aunt, an uncle, any of that, a brother or sister. You immediately have a different world. There are parameters in place that are now different than those that were in place. So we're all comfortable in the new beginning in some way or other, because that period to the right of your fulcrum is in fact a reset and a new life begins. And there's a whole way of looking at this and talking about this, which is soon to be coming to this series, this project. But for the time being, just accept that as fact. When you begin something and you change your focus, which has been the watch phrase all along, then you've reset the clock. You are now in a new space. It's that adjustment phase which we can't live in indefinitely with a clear mind. It's just not possible. It's adjusting because you recognize, there's this thing that's untended to. This thing has happened, this realization, this occurrence, this anything. It's going on. It is already happening, and I am either terrified or in deliberation. If you're in deliberation, as I said last week, go for it. Take the time you need, because if you deliberate in a respectful, thoughtful, compassionate, self-caring manner, you will make it to the new beginning in a very different space than if you rush your way through what is also called an adjustment phase. But although I don't like to say it, that adjustment phase can also serve as a denial phase, or one in which you don't want to face something that you know has happened. And if you don't know that it has happened, then that's irrelevant. You're still in an ignorance is bliss sort of phase, pardon the crassness of that tone. But if you don't know something has happened, you don't recognize it literally, then in effect it hasn't happened. Kind of, you can say that. So once you know that something has happened, you know that you need to adapt to it. And if you continue to live in an unadaptive state, in a state of non-recognition, your mind is endangered, it's cluttered, it's realizing that there's business left untended. And I don't want that for you, friends. I want you to deliberate and make it cleanly to the next phase. I want you to get through that hurdle. But it does require sometimes realizing that something has changed, and it's hard. It is so hard. Facing the awareness of mortality at age 44, but knowing that you're going to wait potentially decades to see it through, that is scary as hell. But you do what you got to do. And if part of what you gotta do is recognizing what you're going through, you will make it over that hurdle. You will cross the fulcrum and reset the clock and start to live a new life. Now, of course, it's not a different life because we all have no other life. Take care of yourselves, friends.